If you're looking to buy land in Wisconsin, I got the perfect video for you, and it's going to dive into two ways to get started right now for your land search. And then also, I'm going to break down a passive way to look for properties and then also an active way to look for properties. So let's dive right into the two things that you could do right now to really get your land search started. And that is going to be with naming the criteria that you're looking for. Wisconsin is a big state. And so if you're going to take on looking at land all throughout the state, you're going to have a tough time doing that because there's just too many properties, too much things to look for, and it's just going to be super, super overwhelming. So what you need to do, especially if you live out of state and you're not super familiar with our state, is you need to do some research on the criteria that you're looking for, namely that location. Are you going to be up north? Are you going to be down south, west, east? Where are you going to be spending your time looking for properties? And maybe you have experienced some opportunities to visit parts of the state and you liked, one region versus the other. I would start with region, and then if you can, narrow it down by counties. And I'm going to go into detail why that's important when we start talking about the active and passive ways to find properties. But let's say you got your region down. That's number one, is where you're going to be spending most of your time looking. When you have that, now you want to start looking at what's out there and start getting a sense of the size of property as well as the price point that these properties are being listed for. The reason I like to do this is it really sets your expectations and figures out what is likely to come up for sale in the future and at what price. So if you're looking for a large tract, let's say like over 100 acres, but you're looking in southeast Wisconsin, from experience, I can tell you that those properties do not come up very often. And if they do, they're going to be into the $1 to $2 million range. But if you go out west or up north, you can find those bigger chunks, above 100 acres. And you'll probably be more into the 500 to the $1 million range. And so once you know that, you know where to spend your time, and you'll know that, okay, opportunities are more likely in this area. That's why I think criteria is such an important part, because otherwise you're just going to be wasting your time, and you're going to be discouraged about the whole process because you're not going to have any properties to look at. And you're just going to be kind of like, well, I just need to give up on this. So criteria is what I would start with to make sure that this is worth your time. If it is worth your time, then I would go forward with a pre-approval letter, connecting with a local lender, get that pre-approval letter, have them run your financials. If you're going to be paying cash, that's perfectly okay, but just make sure that cash is available. If you got it tied up in stocks or retirement accounts, yes, you have the cash, but there are certain obstacles that you have to overcome to actually make that like super, super liquid for closing. So we want to make sure that that's available, that's ready to go, even if you are a cash buyer. Yeah, it's an incentive for landowners to work with a cash buyer just because it's easier, but it's not always easier if it's tied up in other things and not super, super liquid. So just to recap, we're going to start with finding out the criteria. After that, we're going to look into our financials, and that's going to dictate what type of property we can find based on size and price. So now that we have that, now it's time to really get into diving for properties and trying to find those and hopefully do some showings along the way and actually look at stuff. If you're going to be working basically by yourself, everybody's heard of Zillow. Everybody's heard of realtor.com. I'm pretty sure you can save searches on there. You'll get notifications when properties come up that match your criteria. Going back to the very first part of this video, why it's super important to do that. I like to use land.com. I believe you can set up searches on there as well. The reason I like land.com is it does feed from the MLS, but there's also agents who are not part of the MLS who put their properties on there. And so you'll have a bigger database. Like Zillow and realtor.com, you're getting just MLS listed properties. If you go to like a land.com, you're going to get that same feed. But there are, like I said, there are agents who aren't on the MLS who put their properties on there. And I think the data will pull through a lot better on those sites. And so what you want to do is you just want to monitor them. Like, you're going to be getting alerts. You can check those every day. You can, fill out forms and ask questions on certain properties. So that's really the passive way to do it. And I call it passive because you're really just sitting around waiting for something that matches your criteria. And if that sounds like something you're okay doing with, and you can be patient with it, it's not a bad route. I would have it as a foundation for anything, just so you know what the heck's going on. But if you want to have a more active role in your property search and you're okay with outreach, spending a little bit of money, talking to landowners, I would highly recommend searching property records and GIS systems to figure out who owns the property that you want to buy. And this is why starting with the criteria is so important, because if you go to a particular county, there's thousands, if not tens of thousands of tax ID numbers, different properties within those counties. So if you start to, look at the whole state, you're just setting yourself up for overwhelm, and you're not going to be super specific in your search. But there are resources out there. One of them is called PropStream. And so this is, I think, $100 a month. And if you use a resource like that, you can search a county, you can obviously search states and stuff like that. It's nationwide, but you can also put in criteria such as minimum acreage, property type, if there's a divorce or a foreclosure, probate, anything like that, and it's gonna filter out those properties for you. So what you can start to do is start building your own list of target properties. So not only are you having a foundation with the passive of getting alerts when properties come up and so on and so forth, but you will start to be your own network of properties. And what you need to do is you need to actively outreach to these people. And you can do that through direct mail. You can do that through cold calling. With PropStream, there is a service called skip tracing where I think it's 15 cents per matched person. So if you pull a list, you'll get an opportunity to skip trace that list. Well, it'll try to give you 3 phone numbers per owner. And then I also believe they can give you an email address. Are they always perfect and do they match up? No, but it's better than nothing. So you can start doing active outreach, like I said, with letters, postcards, and then the phone calls and emails. And if you're watching this video and you say, well, I don't want to do all of this, then the additional resource that I had is that's the stuff that I do every day for either myself if I'm looking to buy a property, or if I have a buyer client of mine that wants something super specific. We have an application process where, basically you're doing everything in steps 1 and 2 that I talked about earlier in this video. And then the passive part of it is we do set you up on an MLS feed search and stuff like that. And then we also engage with other brokers and agents that might have off-market inventory. But the big part of it is that active outreach. We have some text messaging campaigns going on right now, and that all starts with identifying the type of property we need, using PropStream to build that list and make sure we're spending our time on the right property owners, and hoping that we can connect them if they are looking to sell to a land buyer. So if you're watching this video and you live out of state, there's a lot of good stuff in here that you can start doing right away. Even if you live in state and you're looking to buy a piece of land, whatever, you can do this stuff too. All of this is public. All of it is accessible for relatively a cheap amount of money, especially if you're looking at a $500,000 to $1 million property and you got to spend $100 a month and maybe $50 on postage, and it takes you 6 months. That's a really cheap investment to find the right property that you want. So I hope this video is super helpful. This is all stuff that I'm doing every day of the week. So if you have any questions about getting started with it, please shoot me an email or drop a comment below. my email is al@landandlegacygroup.com. You can also learn more about me by going to our website, landandlegacygroup.com. Have a great day, and I hope to talk to you soon.